Hi guys. So recently I have been blogging about and posting on socials about uh, the use of artificial intelligence in education, in teaching and learning, and trying to advocate its use from an ethical, a moral perspective, but also in terms of how to make life that little bit easier, particularly from an English perspective. Uh, I thought actually what might be really helpful is to create and produce a tutorial on how I recommend, based on my experience, using artificial intelligence. We have it all around us. I'm going to be very careful not to use her name. This is about the fourth time I've tried to make this video because I keep saying words and phrases that sound like her name, but there is an Amazon AI very close by, and every time I say her name, she lights up, she listens, she starts to talk. We have smart watches, we have smartphones, the laptops, the computers, the televisions. It's it's one of those things that we are going to have to realize are becoming more and more integrated into our lives. I even get a notification on my watch and my phone when the laundry is done in the washing machine, and I can set it to another spin and rinse. It is the way the world is moving. And some of us are resistant to that, and some of us are embracing that, and some of us are kind of fit in each camp. For me, when it comes to language and learning and education, I think the moral and ethical dilemma is it comes down to one question really. Are you going to use it to help you, or are you going to use it to do it for you? If it's the latter, this is not the tutorial for you. Um, and I can only say to you, do you, but that's not something I can ever advocate. If, however, you want to use it as a tool for learning, a tool for self-improvement, a tool to better your work and to produce the very best of which you are capable, then that's what I'm here to help you with today. Quick story as to how this kind of thought process came about is that a few years ago, we moved into this house, and the kitchen was falling to pieces. I mean, it was falling to pieces. The tap was leaking, the oven didn't work, the dishwasher door was hanging off. You get the picture. And we needed to invest in a new kitchen. And we designed it, very happy with it, got a new kitchen tap, and hated it. Because when we turned the tap on, cold water came out, we turned the tap off, and instead of stopping instantly, it ran for a few seconds. Called the guys out, they replaced the tap with an identical model, same thing happened. And I was told it's a design feature, it's to stop a build of the calcium, it's to flush it through. We'll move on. The issue is that a few months ago, it got to that point, I think we've all been there, where we can stand it no more. I bought a new kitchen tap. I'm not a plumber. So ringing around trying to find quotes to do this job to replace the kitchen tap, I was shocked by some of the quotes I received, and frankly not in a position to take anybody on at that time. I think one of them was about £160 for the fitting alone. And then, of course, on top of that, we pay for the tap. So I decided I was going to do it myself. I didn't know where to start. I was looking at a blank piece of paper, and a blank piece of paper is simply the scariest thing for almost anybody in the world of education, whether that is a teacher who's sitting down to plan, whether that's a pupil who is about to sit in examination. It's tough stuff. And here it is. So what I knew I had to do was to learn the skill. The task was simple. Change the kitchen tap. The how required some assistance, some If I stared at the top, it was never going to change. If I stare at this piece of paper, it's never going to complete itself. So what's our task? This is the phrase of death for the Amazon AI. So I'm going to change it to write an article for your local newspaper explaining why you feel the local community should invest more time in reducing litter and in recycling their home waste. So aim your article at an adult audience, but make it accessible for younger readers too. Include practical ideas as to what they could do, some consequences of not following your advice, and use statistics to support your claims. Aim to write about 300 words. As I mentioned, we could have a 6-year-old writing a story for this. We could have somebody, writing a policy on social care. This is about the process of using AI rather than the task itself. 300 words tends to be about a handwritten page of A4. That's why I've chosen that, just to give you an idea. So back to the analogy of the tap. What do? We have become so used in the last 10 years to picking up our phone, using our laptop or our tablets, and going on Google, or looking on YouTube, using a tutorial. So even though it's not the same tap, it's not the same kitchen, there may even be tweaks in the process. We're getting enough from the video on YouTube that we feel confident enough, hopefully, to be able to attempt a similar thing ourselves. So we may not be copying exactly what we see, but we're taking the process, we're maybe following the procedure, the protocol, following the skills, learning those skills for ourselves and applying them. And that's where AI comes in academically. And for me, the academic version of YouTube is ChatGPT. And you can see here, the web address is chat.openai.com. And all it requires you to do is to sign up with your email address and a password, and it's completely free. There are some limitations to it, and it's very open about it. It tells you, it remembers what it said in a prior conversation. It allows you to follow up with corrections. If it's not generated exactly what you want to make modifications, we'll come on to that. And if you, for whatever reason, do, and I can't imagine why you would, but do put in anything that is deemed by the programmers as being inappropriate, it will reject those requests. I think that's probably something more to parents, that I want to reassure you that your children, your youngsters, shouldn't be able to do anything on there which you would not be happy with particularly. There is a degree of safeguarding built in. That being said, I'd always advise and advocate you having access to all usernames and passwords and checking things anyway. In terms of limitations, it may occasionally generate incorrect information, and particularly important is the notification at the bottom here. And I'm not skipping the middle bit, but that is very much context based. But the bottom instruction here, the bottom limitation here is very important, which is that it is limited to knowledge of the world and events after 2021. You can pay for something which is more modern, more up to date. However, I would absolutely suggest milking the life out of this free version, because it does absolutely everything you need it to, particularly for everything that I've said we're going to do today. So let's crack on. How do we deal with this? Well, the first thing we do is think about what is the normal procedure when we are creating a piece of writing? Well, the first thing that we would normally do is look at it, maybe panic for a moment, and then sit and try and plan. Now, a plan could be a mind map, it could be a thought shower, it could be bullet points, it could be some sort of like doodle, anything that helps really. And I'm not saying that we get rid of that step. Arguably, some of the better work would come by including that step, because then you're able to refine your ideas, and refined ideas putting to AI will generate an output which is more commensurate with what you want, what you're looking for, and will save you time ultimately. But for the sake of today, we're going to go straight into it. We're going to take this and we're going to say, I have no idea. I've got not a clue. I've got no plans. Nothing's coming to mind. So I'm going to copy and paste or type in the task, and I'm just going to hit go, and I'm going to sit back and I'm going to let the AI do it for me. Gives me a title, gives me a subtitle, and off it goes. Around about 300 words, telling my local community everything that I think it needs to know about reducing litter and increasing the recycling at home. You can see here 40% decrease in litter accumulation. We've got saved 17 trees, 7,000 gallons of water. We've got the statistics. In other words, what we ask it to do, it's doing. Now, if we're unhappy with that, you know, for example, I could say to it, do this again, but include statistics throughout the article, please. Nothing wrong with manners, even if it is AI, rather than having a specific section for it. And what it'll do is it'll take a look at this and it'll begin to include statistics in some way, shape, or form. Here we go, 8 million metric tons. There it starts to talk about 3 hours. There we've got our 17 gallons again. There, 1.3 trillion bags. So it's starting to spread the statistics out. It makes it look less formulaic, seems a bit more natural. So let's work with this one for a moment. What we've got here now is an article which is okay. You know, it's all right. And we should be able to actually scroll up and down and have a little look and see what we've got. So where's my little bar? I'll get to that in a moment. Here we go. Take this, open it up. Right. And what we'll see is that we can now look at the entire article. It's done exactly what we've asked it to do based on the question. It's not done. Yes, it would be easy. We talked earlier about the ethical nature of this, but I reiterate, copy and pasting is plagiarism. This isn't your work. This isn't based on your ideas. This is literally an artificial intelligence creating an article for you based on what your teacher, your professor, your employer has asked. And so to call it your own work would be wrong. However, let's go back to the analogy. This is the YouTube clip. Instead of now me learning and seeing somebody else change the tap, this is me seeing somebody write an article about what I need to write an article on. So much easier than simply saying to Google, can you find me an article that's based on this and includes all of this? It's in essence creating a bespoke example for you. So what will I do now? How do I make it my own? Well, of course, there are a number of ways, and you have to decide what's best for you. You could simply read it, and then that will give you some ideas. You go away and you write it in a way that works for you. However, if you are somebody that has maybe some access to language issues. So DLD or dyslexia, maybe you have English as a second or an additional language. Maybe creativity just isn't part of your skill set generally. And as I said before, you look at a blank page and you just don't know where to go. Then this is what I would suggest. We work through it a sentence at a time. So, for example, imagine walking down the street of our beloved community and being greeted by vibrant flowers, clean sidewalks, and a pristine environment. First point, we're in the UK. That's certainly where I'm based and where most of my followers and pupils and students are based. We don't call it a sidewalk. That would be a dead giveaway that this isn't your work. So there are always ways and means of finding it. But we can turn this into something which is very much us. Let's have a little look. I want you to envisage strolling along the streets of our much loved community, observing the beautiful, vibrant flowers, clean and safe pavements, and a generally, and there's nothing wrong with using some of the words, pristine environment. It goes on. Unfortunately, this is not the case, as litter and waste have become permanent issues. Sadly, this is an all too unfamiliar experience for many, as litter and waste become an issue that plagues us all. So I'm taking each of the sentences and I'm rewording them. So this isn't plagiarism. This is my work. These are my words, inspired by the example on the left. It is what I want to say. It is using my language, using my style, but using this as a springboard. And that's how I suggest using the AI. If you want to make the language simpler, if you want to make it more verbose, if you want to make it more professional sounding with specific words, specific phrases, all you do is ask it to rewrite it, including those things or reducting or reducing those things, and send a message. And you can chip away and chip away and chip away at the model until you have got a perfect example from which you can then produce your own work. It will create revision notes. It will create lesson plans. It will create policies. It will write essays. It will help you with your French or your Spanish or your German or your Mandarin. It's the same principle, regardless. Use it as a modeling tool and then take the model and create your own work. It has a number of positives to doing that. Number one, it saves you time. Number two, what you're having modeled fits exactly what you're needing, rather than you having to try and find something which is a close fit. You get something which is an exact fit. You're able to consolidate your learning by looking at an example. And if you want another, you ask for, give me another example, give me another example, and it will continue to do that almost instantaneously. So if you want a descriptive paragraph describing a sunset and you want 40 of them for whatever reason, you just keep asking, and it will keep churning out different descriptions of sunsets. In the same way, it will also allow you to, over time, become familiar with vocabulary associated with a particular genre. It will allow you to become familiar with the structure of a particular genre. For example, in this case, when we've been asked to write an article, we've got a title, we've got a subtitle. Even though we wouldn't necessarily in an examination, for example, write the word introduction, we know we need one. We've got subtitles throughout. We have bullet pointed or numbered suggestions. And again, although we would be unlikely to write conclusion, again, it shows us that we need one. So all of these things can be translated across from the AI into our own work. But there is another element I want to discuss with you, which you could use again to improve. I'm using a Microsoft Word here. It tends to be the thing that we use most of all. If you're using iPad or you're using any Apple-based product and you don't have Microsoft Office, then use the equivalent web-based documents, so Google Docs kind of thing, and all of these features are available to you. So very, very quickly then, I've written my article. It's 300 words long. I'm over the moon with it. I've gone through it a paragraph or a sentence at a time. I'm reading it and it doesn't feel right. I keep using the same word, or I keep using the same description, or keep my sentence lengths are all the same. Something's not quite right. If you were in the classroom, if you were in a library, we would be saying to you, go and look this word up in a dictionary, check you're happy with the meaning, go and get a thesaurus. And yes, there are very much places for that, and absolutely, please continue to do that. However, for the moment, I want you to envisage strolling along the streets. Strolling doesn't feel right. Right click. I'm thinking ambling. There's your synonym. Ambling along. That gives me almost an alliterative start. A much loved community, observing the beautiful, vibrant flowers. Not sure I want beautiful. I think striking might be good. Striking. Is there another word for vibrant? It's a good word. Is there anything else? Vivid. Yeah, we're using heightened lexis here. So if I'm writing something for an adult audience as per the rubric at the top, then I'm going to want to use heightened lexis. Similarly, if I've used words which are maybe a little more adventurous and I've been asked to write for children, I might want to use a thesaurus and just bring that down a little bit. So that's how I would use AI. It's how I would use the tools built in Word. And once I've got that sorted, then it's either a case of print it out, hand it in, or if you're being expected to handwrite it, as I've said, limit it to about 300 words, and you'll find that all you need to do is copy it into your exercise book, and it'll be the equivalent of 2 sides in a small book or 1 side in an A4 book, give or take, and your homework will be done, or your essay will be done, changing those parameters as you need. And I hope that's been helpful. And like I say, what I wanted to do today was to provide for you almost a walk and talk through using ChatGPT alongside Microsoft Word in order to be able to generate your ideas and to really use AI in a way that is useful both to you in terms of your time management and accomplishing tasks to the best of your ability, but also to your future when it is knowing how to write an article, knowing how to write a descriptive passage, knowing how to write an essay, knowing how to write a speech, etc. So download it, sign up to it, play around with it. You will be amazed at what it can do, and use this tutorial either as your go-to protocol when you are producing work or as a springboard to get you going. And I hope it's been helpful. Drop me a comment below or send me a message or an email or however we usually communicate. Let me know how it's worked out for you. Any questions? Always ask and I'll get back to you as soon as I can with an answer. And if I don't know, find out. And I look forward to hearing some more of your success stories. Bye for now.